It's Rusty Diamond, motherfucker. Yo, man. Boom, it's Rusty. What's up, everybody? It is, I don't know. I think it's Thursday. Yesterday, I went to the water park and I am hurting today. So, yes, it's like that. So, thank you, everyone, for being here. And my coffee, my creamer went bad. So, I haven't had my coffee. Who knows what's going to happen here? So, thanks for listening here on the Quantum Global Broadcasting Network, QGBN. Check out other great shows on the network, such as When the Gloves Come Off, the Thinking Man's Pro Wrestling Podcast. This is It with Lizzie and Say by the Ben. The show is brought to you by Fred Ben Savage as Fuck, Hardcore Entertainment, Stoner Eats Productions, Hypnosis is Great, and SuckEmUp.org. And you guys, yeah, again, I am Rusty Diamond here. And this is the Public Access Podcast, the podcast. I'm going to bring on our special guest today. Our special guest is right here, right now. We have Amy Hensley. How are you doing, Amy?
I'm great. How are you?
Doing pretty great. So you, in your background, you have a bunch of what looks like ocean type material, and you are not very near the ocean.
No, I'm about as far from the ocean as you can get. I'm in Lincoln, Nebraska, but Grand Cayman is my heaven, and I go there. I've been there frequently, and so I've decorated my office with all things ocean because it's calming and relaxing and the place where I go to recharge.
And how often do you get to go there?
Well, I should say that not frequently enough, but I would say once every year or so, every year, every 2 years. It's definitely a place that I long to be.
What is it about it?
I feel like I'm a solar panel when I'm down there. I just take in all of the sun. It's beautiful, it's relaxing, it's safe. The people are amazing and kind and fun. And the ocean is just very calm. And it speaks to my soul.
And so is most of your work done in person or online right now?
With Sips and Wishes?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's done mostly in person.
Okay.
Because of the the uncomfortable nature of our topics, it's really good to be able to meet with people in person and feel their energy, and address any concerns, by looking in their eyes. And we also get to show our equipment that way in person. When we talk about some of these medical interventions, most people haven't looked or seen or touched or felt, a G tube, a feeding tube. And so we get to show those to folks. And it just makes a difference when you can see it and touch it and really understand how this equipment works.
So what's the equipment for? Is it just for showing people what quality of life is really like? And is it worth it to have them on that, or?
So I would say that
Yeah.
it helps people understand what it is in real life, because what you see on TV isn't real. And when we talk about someone being on a ventilator and how we intubate them, if I show them the equipment, it just becomes more real. And if our mission is to educate. And if you don't know what any of this equipment is or what these interventions are, how are you making an educated decision if you want these interventions or not. You know, if all you see is TV and movies, you might think that CPR is, you know, a lifesaver in every case, and you wake up and sit up and thank everybody around you for giving you chest compressions, because you have beautiful lighting and the, you know, the wind in your hair. And the reality of CPR is it's pretty brutal. It's pretty brutal on the body. So
You're
when we
supposed to,
talk, I'm sorry.
you're supposed to crack the ribs if you're doing it right.
Exactly. And not very many people realize that. So when we bring the equipment and talk about these things in real life, it's purely to, it's not to scare people. It's to help them make educated decisions, and everybody has to make that decision for themselves.
And I mean, so how many people, what's kind of a ballpark number of people who don't have this set up, don't have anything really set up, or very much not fully prepared for what is set up? Like, you see what I'm saying? Like if they
Yeah.
have, they don't have this, but they're like, I want to be buried or something, or I want to be cremated, but then they don't have this. Well, what if I am, brain dead? What if I'm, what if I'm having trouble breathing? What if I'm in a coma for 2 years? Yeah. So is there like a lot of people who have something like that where they have somewhat of an idea, but not fully?
I would say that the research I've heard about is that about 25% of folks who are retired, so folks who are in their 60s, 70s and on up, have some sort of advanced directives. And advanced directives is kind of an umbrella term for anything for you for the future. So that could be a medical power of attorney, that could be living will, all those kinds of documents. And so those folks who are getting towards, a traditional end of life have some of that stuff figured out. They've got it in writing from an attorney, it's legal documents. Even still though, they a lot of times don't have never had the medical education related to, what is dialysis, and if I want that, what's that look like, and can I stop it? So they don't have that knowledge. They might have had a few conversations with their spouse, but maybe their kids don't know what their wishes are, and what if their spouse dies before they do, and so then their kids are going to probably be their medical power of attorney. And do they know that, if I have to do CPR on a 80-year-old little man, I'm going to break all of his ribs, and that's just the nature of it. And do they want, does the dad want that? Probably not, because it's painful, and then you might live out the rest of your lives sedated and intubated. And is that the quality of life you want for your dad? So having those conversations is critical. And like I said, that's about 25% of the elder population, and I would say that the numbers are way lower for folks that aren't that age. But the reality is 22-year-old kids get in hunting accidents and dive into shallow swimming pools and go skiing in and out of trees, and so they need this information. I drive my car, and fate doesn't care if I'm on my way to a meeting. I could get into a horrific car accident, and luckily I've had these conversations with my kids, so they know what I want and what I don't want. And so when we've had these conversations about everything, then we're hoping to prevent some of the guilt that comes when families are left to be the voice of the patient. And if they don't know what you want, they're left to make these decisions, and then they second guess themselves. Did I make the right decision for this? But when we have these conversations, that kind of takes care of that guilt that comes.
Yeah. And so, I mean, how do you get these kids that think they're going to live forever to actually say, and I guess kind of accept their mortality?
It's challenging, especially with 20-year-olds, because they do think they're invincible, and their brains aren't fully developed yet, right?
Right.
But if we can get a multi-generational party going, like, let's sit down and talk about what your grandparents want. And while we're doing that, we're talking to everybody about, what do you consider living? Because that's the theme that we thread through the whole party, because it's everybody's answer is different, it's personal, but it helps you make your decisions. And your decision is, your choices are going to be different when you're 20 versus when you're 80, and they should be. But having this information, this underlying education about what all this stuff is, if at any time during your life, whether you're 20 or 40 or 80, you've heard about these terms before, you know what it means to be intubated. So yeah, you can accept your mortality at any time as you age, but at least you've had the information, and you can have these conversations with your family or your loved ones and say, yeah, that sounds like a great idea when I'm 20, but maybe not so much when I'm 65 and I've got 4 or 5 comorbidities, because your outcomes are going to be different.
Right. And so, I mean, did this get ramped up with everything a few years ago? Did more people into this idea of thinking it out beforehand, with kind of I don't know. I'm sure some people thought that a lot worse was going to happen, and did that mean more people were wanting to come to someone like yourself, or would that seem like there'd be less people coming to you then to talk about this sort of stuff?
I think COVID did a lot of things. I think one of them was it made people understand what it means to die alone in the hospital on all these machines, and that they don't want that. Yeah. And so I think it gave people a little bit more permission to have these conversations, whereas maybe before it seemed like taboo, or like we shouldn't talk about these things, because our culture in the United States really does hide death and anything related to it, because it's uncomfortable and it's icky and it can be messy, and so all the news reports and the things about people dying alone, or over FaceTime with their family, people realize that that's they thought about what's important, and it's their loved ones and being with them and having a good death. And a good death can be a lot of things to a lot of different people, but having that conversation is really important, because if we don't know what we want or what we don't want, and then we're not sharing it, then you run the risk of having that, what I would consider a bad death. And that means different things to different people.
What's a bad death to you? What's a good death to you?
Bad death would be suffering. It could be, whether that's emotional or physical, and having it be prolonged on machines when our bodies know how to die. We have so many interventions that just because we can doesn't mean we should. And not having honest, direct, factual conversations between healthcare professionals and family members is does everybody a disservice. No doctor wants to have that death on their record, but we're all going to die. And, I think if family members knew the realities of what some of these interventions can do, then they might choose something different. And to me, a good death is whenever it happens, it's comfortable, it's peaceful, it is pain-free, and that's again where the education comes in, that some of the medications that we can give at end of life don't kill the person. Morphine gets a bad rap on TV shows and in movies, right? You give it once and somebody dies, and that's
Right.
just not how it works in real life. It's a very safe drug when given appropriately, and it can just end some of that suffering. It eases that, and our, like I said, our bodies know how to die, and if we can just let that, let the body do what it's supposed to do, it can be beautiful and lovely in those final moments. And yeah, we're going to miss that person like crazy, but if you believe in an afterlife, why are we trying to prevent them from going there?
Right. And then, so how much does religion or other people's beliefs kind of then play into this?
That's super important, because like I said, we all have a different answer to what does living mean to you. And no matter what your background is, you should get to decide what you want for your body, whether it's religious, or your family's culture, or your culture as a bigger whole. All of that plays into your decisions, but ultimately it's your decision. It should be yours.
They made a South Park episode when there was, well, I forgot what her name was. I want to say something Shivo or something to that nature, where she was on all the life support and stuff, and there was a big debate for the country if what they're going to do with her.
Yeah.
And again, there no what do we know? She didn't say, hey, I want this done with me if I end up here. So everyone is kind of in that thing, and it's like, oh, okay, but yeah, I'm the best friend, I'm the parents, I know what it would be. And then everyone is in there, and there's all this media stuff on them, and then at the end, the reveal is, he says, just make sure nobody comes in here with cameras, and don't show me like this to the world.
Exactly.
Was the main thing. And um that's a whole other thing too, with, but I mean, and then there's, I don't know, there's odd stuff, seeing the stuff on social media, people, when someone is dying, and then you see they're a picture of them with the old hand or something, or seeing someone all laid up in a bed looking like they're about to die. But then on the other hand, like you were saying, with showing the machines, the two feeding tubes and the ventilators, maybe it's good to have that out there, and it's not so, I mean, assuming it's not done for internet clout or instant sympathy gratification.
I think
Um,
I think there are a lot of people who, are in my line of work, who want to show the realities of death so that it's not so scary. Because like a lot of things, once you have been educated about what something really is, it's a lot less scary, because your mind is powerful, and it can create all sorts of things in your mind that are way worse than the reality. And if we can show what it looks, what a natural normal death peacefully can be, then it's, and if you have, hospice nurses and things who are, this is our specialty, if we can be there to help guide families and say, yep, this is a normal thing to happen. Not everybody goes through all the different, little pieces. I call it a hospice buffet, where some people, might have modeling of their skin. Some people might have different breathing. Some people get, different looks on their skin. So everybody does something a little differently. But if we can educate people on that's just part of the process. This is to be expected. Then I think it's a lot less scary for folks. I don't think anybody would ever say, oh, yep, it's my desire to be in a cold, sterile hospital room with all the beeping and all the noises and people running up and down the halls and, being sedated with all these medicines. And that's not how I want to die. So I want it to be peaceful, and I want somebody rubbing my feet, and I want some aromatherapy going and a fan, and let's play some music in the background. And that's to me how I want to go. I don't want to be hooked up to all the machines.
Just, yeah, let it happen, send you home. And I mean, yeah, it's, at what point is it? I mean, I don't know. I think everyone should be making this decision, and especially if you've encountered some near-death experience in your life, for sure should be doing it, getting that out there. And I've told this story before with someone else who is in your line of work, and like my dad had some of this stuff, but not everything. So and then he ended up on, a lot of quality of life kind of things, and but then like the final stuff wasn't really ever finished, and it just became a ridiculous, I don't know, ridiculous journey, experience and whatever. And I hope people can learn from that and learn how, don't get in that situation. Don't put your kids in that situation, or anyone else like that. It's not really fair. It's pretty selfish. So
Yeah, it can be really traumatic, right? I mean, it's
sure.
when you have that cascade of events happening, it's like, well, where do you stop? And if it's as lay people don't know what they're seeing, they don't know what they're hearing, they don't know what all these words are, because it's a foreign language,
Right.
to most people. And like there's research that shows there's physiologically there's no way your brain can learn new things when you're in a heightened state of anxiety. It's physically impossible. And so if
And
you can have these conversations around a kitchen table when you have a beverage and a snack, and we can talk about all this stuff when we're comfortable and relaxed, and it's a safe place to ask all questions, it's a way easier way to learn about these medical things. And then you're not traumatized or have guilt later because of what you thought was going to be the right decision, but really kind of was a futile scenario. And that's not anybody's fault. It's just what happens. Like, we think we can do all these things, we have them at our disposal, so we think we should. And that's where having a healthcare provider be honest with you about what's your outcome going to really look like. And you said having that catalyst for the conversation sometimes is a real life experience. I have a friend who she had someone that was in her life that very unexpectedly just fell over with a heart attack, and picture of health, not that old. And that prompted her to say, okay, Amy, I need to have this party. You need to come and tell me what's going on. So, because you just never know. You don't know what tomorrow brings.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. And I mean, you're not hurting yourself doing it. You're only hurting the other people around you. So, if people, are wanting to book you, want to ask you questions, anything like that, where are they going to look for this?
Well, we have a website, sipsandwishesparty.com. We're also on Facebook. And there's an email address there, the phone number, you can call or text, send me a message through Messenger. I can do step over Zoom. I can come to where people live and do parties there. And I'm hoping that we can put ourselves out of a job eventually with enough people having this information and having these conversations. It's just really important. It's a gift to your loved ones.
Yeah.
And I think the hardest part is just picking a date, getting it on the calendar, and then inviting your people. That really is the hardest part.
Yeah. And realizing, we're all gonna be dead. So yeah. I mean, maybe in 7 years we may be maybe our bodies will be dead and we'll all be uploaded into the matrix, whatever. But in one way or another, we'll all need to have this conversation. We all should have this conversation. So Amy, thank you so much for being on here and getting to inform people about stuff that they may not have, would not have even thought about or wanted to think about. So thank you so much for that. And I hope you have a good rest of your day.
Thank you. Rest of you too.
You're welcome. All right, that's Amy Hensley. Check her out. Check it out. Get on there. It's there for you. Just go do it. It's not hard. Do it yourself. Do it for people that are your loved ones. It's messed up to leave it. When you think about it, if you ever experienced it, it sucks. It's pretty sucky. So make sure you do it. Don't be a selfish jerk. So anyway, you guys, thank you for listening here on the QGBN. And if you want, you can call me, leave a message. I'll play it on the show. And maybe you can leave a message or messages. We don't leave no stinking messages. So you guys, thank you so much for listening. Like, share, subscribe, and thank you so much. And that is the show, man. Boom.
It's Rusty Diamond, motherfucker. It's Rusty Diamond, motherfucker.
Ernest!
Yes, Pee-wee.
You brought the snacks, right?